My name is Oishi. I'm the international representative of Bangladeshi Asexuals Association. We are excited to participate in the annual conference hosted by Asian Network of Ace Queer Activists. And in this presentation, we will discuss asexuality in Bangladesh. First, a little bit of background about BDAA. It was founded in October 2020 by Deepa Mahbuba Yasmin. Our main initiative is to create content in our native language Bengali and to raise awareness about asexuality. We are raising awareness through online platforms such as Facebook. So far, we have found visibility for 20 people who identify as ace. Our members are both Bangladeshi citizen and expatriate Bengalis. These are members of the diaspora who live abroad. Once the pandemic is over, we hope to do a get-together so that Bengali aces have a chance to get to know each other. We also hope to continue working with Ace Queer Network activists. To explain what it is like to be asexual in Bangladesh, it is important to give the cultural context. Bangladesh has a very culturally conservative society. Sex and sexuality are taboo topics and never discussed in polite society. It is acknowledged in legal contexts, but it is treated as a conjugal duty and a means of procreation. Procreation is considered to be a very serious duty of our citizens. Hence, sexual orientation is considered irrelevant. Your sexual orientation is irrelevant in the performance of your duty to procreate. Marriage is also an important social currency. Therefore, unmarried individuals face significant challenges because they cannot fit in the society's hierarchy. Men and women who are unmarried or unable to procreate are either ostracized or pitied in the society, but no avenues are offered where they can discuss their struggles. This cultural tradition in Bangladesh has been largely influenced by its religious traditions, mainly Islam and Hinduism. As you can see in the pie chart, the vast majority of Bangladeshis practice Islam, about 90%. 9% practice Hinduism, and the remaining 1% practice other religions, such as Christianity or Buddhism. The attitude towards sex and sexuality in Bangladesh come largely from the Islamic attitude towards these topics. Islam does not consider sexuality to be a taboo topic, but only in the context of marriage. Premarital sex or extramarital sex are explicitly forbidden and considered to be punishable offenses. Many of the Islamic faith in Bangladesh are taught from an early age that when an unmarried man and an unmarried woman are alone together, the third person in their company is the devil, which means premarital sex is taught to be a sin, and the mixing between opposite genders is highly discouraged. In other religions, the same conservative traditions apply. So for example, the Hindu societies in Bangladesh are also very conservative, especially with regards to sex. This is despite the fact, if you are familiar with Hindu mythology, they discuss sex very frankly, but in practice, this is not seen in Hindu societies. In many religions, the subservience of the wife to the husband is emphasized as a virtue. This is true in Hinduism, and this has influenced Bengali society for many generations, and these values are still followed regardless of what religion is being practiced. For example, while Islam does not explicitly stipulate that it is a wife's duty to obey her husband and satisfy his needs, the Islamic religious leaders in Bangladesh often teach that wives ought to be subservient to their husbands. And this usually means when a husband requests sex, the wife must comply. In many religious traditions, celibacy is often revered as divine or an extreme act of devotion. Interestingly, this is not true in Islam. Islam does not value celibacy as much as some other religions do. However, in communities where celibacy is revered, asexuals face unique challenges because people view them as devout, ascetic, as if they have taken a vow of celibacy, which is known as brotochari in our language. Asexual individuals want to be treated as regular citizens, not as a god or a brotochari, a monk or a pastor. This can be a unique challenge for aces who identify as atheist, because the society treats them as if they are very religious and devout. Unfortunately, there is no sex education in Bangladesh whatsoever. Sex is never mentioned by parents to their children or by educators to students. Traditionally, women were left to find out about sex on their wedding nights from their husbands, because even in our grandmother's generation, there was never a culture of mothers preparing their daughters for what is to happen on the wedding night. This has changed in recent years due to science education. So people are taught how procreation occurs in a scientific way. However, there is no sex education in schools because people think that means teaching how to have sex. People are opposed to teaching sex education to minors because premarital sex is explicitly forbidden. They do not understand that sex education encompasses very important topics of safety, consent, sexual orientations, etc. And knowledge on these topics is severely limited because of this hesitancy to teach sex education. One area in which Bangladesh is doing well is that there is good education on family planning and the use of contraceptives, because the government pushes these topics as a method of population control. However, we have a long way to go in the area of general sex education. As long-term goals, BDAA hopes to combat these misconceptions about sex education, provide training and workshops on sex education to teachers in primary and secondary schools, and also to advocate incorporating sex education in the education system. There is virtually no understanding in Bangladesh regarding the difference between gender and sexuality. People are expected to marry those of the opposite gender and procreate with them. Non-binary and transgender people have to fight on two fronts, trying to explain both their gender and their sexuality. BDAA is trying to raise awareness about both asexual and non-binary citizens. We are trying to raise awareness among transgender organizations and queer organizations who may not be aware that their ACE members might be facing unique challenges. Asexuality and LGBTQ issues are not recognized by the government. In fact, these topics are banned in public discourse under the 377 sodomy law. Any topic about LGBTQ issues or asexuality issues fall under this law, and thus are not held in public context, like publicly funded context. The general public sentiment towards LGBTQ issues are very negative. LGBTQ activism is often met with violence, and the government does not provide sufficient legal protection for people who are met with such violence. There is very low visibility of ace men because they have a fear of social harassment. The masculinity of asexual men is scrutinized and censured. Any man who cannot perform, it is very shameful for him. So much so that legally, in a divorce court, if a wife can prove that her husband is sexually incompetent, that is unable to procreate with her, she can demand large compensation as part of the divorce. For women, there are unique challenges. Many ace women do not understand their asexuality and suffer from an inferiority complex, thinking that they're broken. Many take medication and sex therapy on the advice of a doctor. Many also face marital rape from their husbands. And since marital rape is not recognized, they do not have any legal protection. Some law professionals are trying to raise awareness about the issue of marital rape, especially as it is faced by citizens. And we are also trying to raise awareness among feminist organizations who are fighting marital rape and raising awareness about it so they can be aware that ace women face the threat of marital rape. Asexuality is misdiagnosed as a psychosexual disorder in the medical professionals. They treat it with medication or with sex therapy. Often, they confuse asexuality with disorders such as OCD and germophobia. For example, if an asexual individual describes their sex-repulsed behaviors, medical professionals might think this is a manifestation of their OCD and germophobia. This misdiagnosis is likely to continue unless medical professionals understand the difference between attraction and desire. We have reached out to members of the medical profession. We have explained asexuality to 2 doctors, and we have invited them to participate with us in future vlogs to explain and discuss asexuality so we can explain it to the general public. We are also in talks about the possibility of incorporating asexuality and sexual orientation into medical education. BDAA is working to create a vocabulary in our native language, Bengali, for asexuality-related concepts because these do not exist. On the right, you can see the Bengali words for asexual and aromantic. Ajonochitto, apremomoyi. We are creating educational content in Bengali and writing fiction in Bengali to make these concepts more accessible to the citizens of Bangladesh. We work with an art gallery, Epiphania Visuals, which hosts art exhibitions and seminars centering on the sexual experience. We have an asexual writer, Sajjad Hossein Kishore. He writes stories and poems based on his personal experience. Epiphania Visuals has been extremely helpful in creating posters, infographics, and memes that we are using in our efforts to raise awareness about asexuality. And here are some examples of some of their work. With that, we would like to conclude this presentation. Thank you for joining us. We are proud Bangladeshis and proud asexuals.